just wait for it to go live, and then I will turn the volume off on it, so otherwise we'll get feedback.
Okay.
I think we are live. Yep, it says we are. Just wait for it to go live, and then I will. Great. Okay. Let me just put us side by side. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Hi, everybody. Happy. What day are we today? We're Tuesday. Yes. So if you're on your Easter holidays, I hope you're enjoying them. Today I am here. I'm joined by Rachael Bantin, who is who's joining me. She's a client, somebody who I've worked with twice in the last, is it the last 18 months or 2 years, something like that?
Yeah, about 18 months.
Yeah, about 18 months. Rachael is a teacher, and she first came to me with gut issues. And obviously this last couple of weeks, I've really been focusing on gut issues because I see a lot of clients who, although I specialise, of course, in perimenopause and menopause, that's the kind of age group I work with, but very often there are issues with gut health, and it's underlying everything. If we don't get our gut health right, we can't actually improve other elements of our health. We can't improve perimenopausal symptoms, we can't improve hormonal balance, and so on. And so that's why I have a very big interest in gut health, and I do a lot of work with it. So Rachael came to me and we started working together on that particular issue. And then after that, we worked together in the Revitalise Method, which is my 16-week program. So I won't go on any further. Let's just dive straight in. So first of all, Rachael, when we first met and you got in contact, I think I'd known you for a little while before that anyway,
yeah.
But you got in contact with me because you were having some challenges. What were the challenges that you were experiencing before we started working together?
I basically thought I had IBS symptoms, sort of very unpredictable habits that were becoming more and more inconvenient to kind of daily life, and I was really struggling with them. And I tried going to the GP, I tried cutting out dairy from my diet, and although cutting out dairy made a bit of a difference, it didn't really solve it completely. And then the GP just kind of said, well, if you feel better for not eating dairy, don't eat dairy, see you later, and had no interest in kind of trying to get to the bottom of things. I think they did run a test to check whether I was celiac, but that was all that ever happened. So I'd sort of got to the point where I'd sort of learnt to live with some quite inconvenient symptoms, and I was getting to the point where I was getting a bit desperate. And I'd actually seen another nutritional therapist who didn't really get to the bottom of it. There was a blood test that didn't really show anything. So I guess I came to you not really expecting to get an improvement, but obviously we did. So
yes, we did. And so was that your main hesitation for working with me, that you hadn't had results before having worked with somebody else, and so you were sort of hesitant because you wondered whether that you'd get whether there was anything that could be done?
Yeah, I think I sort of just thought it was something I was going to have to live with. But you were quite clear that the symptoms I had were not normal, and that I shouldn't have to live with them, and that there must be an answer. And I think, we obviously went through a process of testing, which was not particularly pleasant and quite expensive. But I've since heard you say to other people that have been through testing that you can sort of tell which is the right test, and that was absolutely right. And that test showed exactly what the problem was. And then you were able to put me on a course of treatment that just quite quickly, I mean, it's not like an overnight treatment, but within a couple of weeks.
You noticed the difference quite quickly, didn't you? Yeah. I think I get a lot of people coming to me who have been on a similar journey. They may not have worked with another practitioner, but they certainly have been to the GP. And they are, if the symptoms are similar to what you were experiencing, they are told it's IBS and you just cut out this or cut out that and basically on your way, and you just got to live with it. And a lot of women have been struggling with it for a long time, but it can be debilitating. I mean, it can stop you from doing your, if anything's stopping you from running your normal life, that's not normal.
Yeah.
If things are stopping you from being able to go in and go out for dinner or whatever, then that's not normal. And we have to get to the root cause of what it is. And as you say with the testing, I don't just test willy-nilly.
No.
So we went through a process, didn't we, which was a food diary, and it's not just a food diary, but sort of mapping it against your symptoms, and a health questionnaire. Excuse me. And from that, I said to you what I thought it probably was, and therefore we needed to do this particular test, which is the GI a stool test. And it was the right decision, because without that test we wouldn't have actually identified what the problem was.
No, I think that's absolutely right. And I think I'd gone through a bit of cost previously where I'd done a blood test, and there's a little bit of maybe there's something with your hormones, or maybe there's something with vitamin levels, but nothing really came out of it, and then there was no kind of follow-up, and that was quite disappointing. But to do the right test and have such a clear result, and then to go into a treatment that really made a difference but was also not going to cause any further problems, because you did say that I could have gone to the GP with that information and got a course of antibiotics, and that would have made a difference, and maybe quicker, but I don't know. but I was having lived with those symptoms for maybe, I don't even know how many years really, because it built up over quite a few years, but for many years, to get a result in 2 or 3 weeks, I thought that was really good. I was really happy with that.
Yeah. And so how long did it take before you sort of noticed, you got to the point where you felt that it was really resolved?
Within a couple of months, I felt that the difficult bowel symptoms that I'd had were sort of under control. But then I became very nervous because we were on the Eco Balance program, and I was very nervous about then stopping it and going back to square one.
Yeah.
I sort of gradually came off it. In fact, I've still got some in the fridge that I haven't used for a while, but I just like to know that I've got it there. Got it there just in case I need it. But I haven't needed it since. And generally, I still would say I have little blips here and there, more if I've eaten something, particularly if I'm not at home and in complete control of my diet and things haven't been completely normal. But I've never felt the need to take that again, because the symptoms are not like they were when we started. That was the beginning of last year, actually, wasn't it? I remember beginning of in the lockdown. During lockdown last year when we did it.
And so how are things now?
So really good, from all different respects. So obviously that was resolved, and then as you know, I didn't immediately go on to the Revitalise programme, because at that stage we were in the middle of building a house and moving house and doing all sorts of things. So it wasn't until we sort of got through that, and then I went on to your programme. And I was nervous at the start that I was going to commit to something in terms of time and finances that I wasn't going to be able to actually do, but actually I was able to find the time to do it. Because you're quite clear with people that it's something you commit to do, that you've got to commit some time each week.
Well, if you want some results, then I can't, I always say I can't do it with the best will in the world. I can't do it for you. I can share the information and I can guide and support you, but ultimately you've got to do it yourself. That said, I think I've got the right balance with the amount of work there is, because there's enough so that you are really learning and understanding and then putting into action, but without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I think
you agree with that.
Yeah, I do. And I think the pace is good because you learn something new. And I have obviously tried everything in the past, Slimming World, Weight Watchers online, you know, every single diet that you can possibly name. I've tried them. And it's a bit like one day you're just doing your normal thing, and the next day you're doing the diet. And there is a bit of a kind of sink or swim, or a kind of black and white about it, where if you get something wrong, you feel like you failed. But actually, because this starts and you start the program and you start with education and with learning, and it's quite gradual, because it was breakfast we changed first, and then we gradually went through and changed other things, that although there was a commitment of time to look at the lessons each week, actually what I needed to change happened quite gradually. But I did notice, as soon as I changed breakfast, I did notice quite a big difference to how I operated during the rest of the day, because actually it just cut out my need for snacking. Whereas, you know, I wouldn't say of all the people I've met in my life, I'm the worst for snacking and grabbing the chocolate and things at break. You know, I'm not like that particularly, but there are times where I get ravenously hungry, and because now I've changed my breakfast, I can go through. And if, you know, I work in a school that sometimes I can't get hold of what I really want to eat for lunch, I can sort of manage because I've had such a good breakfast. And so it's well structured for kind of getting you through what you need to do. So although there is a time commitment each week to learning those things, people who've been to like Weight Watchers and gone each week and got weighed and sat around chatting have committed that time, but actually haven't got very much out of it, I don't think, or I never did. Whereas sitting down and doing the lessons and going back to them, and I have gone back to some of them, and I still want to keep going back to them to just kind of remind me of some of the things that I did early on. I think that's really, I think it really has shifted my mindset. And I thought I think I am quite an educated person, and I thought I understood what a healthy diet was, but I didn't understand how to eat for my blood sugar, which is what I do now understand. And so even now when I go away on holiday, or I'm away from home and somebody else is cooking, I'm able to kind of control certain things. But the minute I'm home again, I can just get back on track, and it's not difficult. And actually, I feel better for eating the way that I eat now. And so I don't feel that I'm on a diet and sacrificing things. I feel like I'm eating in a way that nourishes myself and that I can keep going. So I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything. And if I fancy a bit of dark chocolate, which I sometimes do, I do just have it. I don't worry about it, because I'm less obsessed with like being on a diet, but rather than eating things that I know are going to make me feel good and keep me sort of going through the day. So I think my attitude to food has really changed through that, which is sort of, that did surprise me, because I thought I knew what I like to do, but I think it really did change.
And that's the thing. I think this is so different to Slimming World, or it's just totally different. It's not even on the same spectrum in terms of people come into the program for lots of different reasons. Sometimes, often, they've got some weight to lose, some belly fat to lose, but I'm really clear to people, it's not a weight loss program, but you can definitely, if you want to, lose weight. And it's not a diet. I don't do dieting. I don't agree with dieting. I teach people how to nourish their body. And when they focus on that, rather than focusing on weight loss or dieting, the weight comes off naturally. When you get the health right and you get the body functioning properly and the body system's working correctly, then the weight will come off, because everything comes into balance. And so you're absolutely right. And I think that was one of the main things that you came into the Revitalise Method for, wasn't it? You wanted to lose a few pounds, basically bring yourself back into balance and balance the hormones. I don't know if I've lost you. Have you? Are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost a bit of that. I think I got the gist of it. It tells me my internet connection is unstable.
Okay.
Somebody's using it elsewhere, I suspect.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So what stood out for you about the program that was different to things you tried in the past? Was that more, what you were talking about? Is there anything else that stood out?
I think the education and the understanding of how to eat and how to nourish your body, and not count things. So I'm not only a teacher, but I'm a science teacher, so I like to measure things and I like to count them. So when I started, I wanted to know how many calories or how many GLs to have per day. And we have talked about my need to weigh myself very frequently, which I've tried to get better. I would say that I'm not completely cured of that habit yet, but I think because I get more positive feedback now, because I feel like I've got things under control, that actually I don't mind it so much. But I wanted to measure everything, but I don't feel I need to now, because it's about the quality rather than the quantity of what I eat. And so that was important. And I think another part of it for me was, and I didn't expect this either, was the other symptoms. So I was getting really terrible night sweats when I started, and they were resolved very quickly as well using Clary Calm. And I hadn't expected that to have an impact. And I'm sure what I was doing with my diet has helped as well. So that was another really positive benefit. But it sort of generally made me more aware of how what I put into my body impacts it. And so I didn't expect to cut down how much alcohol I drank. I was quite clear with myself that I was going to still have a drink on a Friday and a Saturday and do what I normally do. But actually, I have massively cut down the amount of alcohol that I would consume. And part of that is how it impacts my sleep. And I sort of knew, I think I always knew, that alcohol was really bad for sleep, for my sleep. And that the older you get, the worse that symptom is. But I started noticing it more and more. And I don't know whether that was just because that's what we're doing in the program, is sort of observing what happens and paying attention to ourselves. But even I've got a Garmin watch and it does a sleep thing. And when you're resting, you get little blue lines. And when you're not resting, you get little orange stress lines. And if I've had alcohol, I get the orange stress lines all through the night. So although I've been in bed for 7, 8, 9 hours at the weekend and been in bed for longer than I would be during the week, the quality of the sleep wasn't as good. Yeah. So, and if I take away the alcohol, it massively changes it. So now I will offer to be the driver so that I can get out of having a drink, so that because I know it's going to have such a bad impact on my sleep, and I don't want my weekend, which is my recovery time, to ruin my sleep for the next week. I want to recover and rest with it. So I have really cut down on my alcohol, which did surprise me. So yeah. I think you said at the beginning, when I think maybe in one of the weekly group things, that people often do end up drinking less by the end of it. And I thought, oh, that won't be me. But it was me as well. So that's really good. I mean, I still, have a drink, but I actually don't enjoy it as much as I used to. Like, I don't want it. It's not a sacrifice. I'm not doing it to sacrifice myself. It's the sleep. I can't waste a night's sleep because I've had 3 glasses of wine. It's just not worth it. So so that was a surprise for me.
So what's the result that you're most proud of, or most happy with, having gone through the programme?
So I am pleased that I lost a little bit of weight. I'm pleased that I feel that I have control of what happens, what I put in my body, and that I know the effects. So if I know if somebody gives me some chocolate and I eat it, I know what's going to happen, so I can balance that up. So I feel I've got control back. And I feel that if I, go away on holiday or do something where I'm kind of off program, when I get back home, it's not an effort to kind of go back to eating the way I want to eat. And actually, if I have put on a little bit of weight, I know what I need to do to go back to where I want to be. So, that is for me, that I have control, that it's not controlling me and telling me what to do, that I feel that I've got control. So I think that's the most important thing, that I know what I need to do, but I don't feel like it's a sacrifice. I just feel like it's the way I want to eat, because that's better for me, because I feel like I've got more energy when I eat like that, when I eat with blood sugar in mind. that I will lose a little bit of weight if I want to, but I don't have to do it for weight loss, but just to feel more energetic and kind of fresher every day. So that's important.
Yeah. And so things now, you're feeling balanced and...
Yeah, I mean, almost all of the time, things, you know, from a gut health point of view are great. Occasionally I do eat things that send me a little bit off kilter, and that's fine. I can get back on track. In terms of, you know, I guess I really wanted to lose a bit of weight. I feel like that's under control. And I think that I've really noticed the other benefits about sort of the other kind of perimenopause symptoms, about my hot flashes and my night sweats, which I actually suffered with when I was pregnant. So it's obviously like my hormonal thing that I get.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so that's important. And just being so aware of things like alcohol and other things that you put into your body and the effect that they're going to have, and not having them, and not, you know, doing it for the right reasons for my own health, you know. So I think that's been really, really good.
Yeah, great. And so the question, would you recommend the Revitalise method to others if they are struggling with hormonal problems or inability to lose weight, etc.? Yeah.
I think 100% I would recommend it. In fact, I would, you know, I can imagine myself almost doing it to myself again, you know, just every now and again to get back on it. So I think it's really well founded in good science. As a science teacher, I really felt that it was very solid in terms of the education, but I think it really works. And I think I can't imagine, unless somebody's already doing it, that they would go on the program and not feel better. So unless somebody was already eating that way, I can't imagine people would not feel better. And I know from listening in the group, so although I couldn't join the weekly calls, I always listened every single week. So it's like the stalker at the back of the class for what everyone else was doing. But, you know, people had such a variety of different issues and different parts of the program that were the thing for them that made a difference. So for me, it was all about the gut health, and that all of those bits were the things that I was latching onto. But for other people, it was more about energy, and for other people, it's more about hormones and different things. And I could see that everybody was kind of doing the things they needed to do from the program, and they became the priority. So probably somebody else would come through the program and feel better, but they probably have focused on slightly different parts of it, I think. But there's a lot to it. But I was surprised at how many parts made a difference to me, because I thought it was all about weight loss and getting my gut under control. But actually there were so many other things that I felt better from. I mean, I even eventually did do a bit of meditation. I did a whole month in January where I did that with the man from the Balance app who I heard about, and I was like, oh, I'm going to give that a go. And actually that also was really good, to try something that I probably wouldn't have tried. And it took me, you know, a while in the program. I didn't do it. I did it sort of as I finished the program. I had a go at it. And I can see that is a really good thing. And there were so many different things in there that I think anybody who has got any kind of, like, you know, women of my age who've got issues that probably weren't an issue when they were younger, I think they would really benefit from that, definitely.
Yeah. And thank you for that. And I think that the difference with this compared to other things is that, or other even sort of, you know, group programs, is that everybody gets the one-to-one at the start of the program, as it's currently set up. And in that one-to-one, so you've done your health questionnaire, you've done your food diary. So we obviously did it again because we've done it previously for the gut health. I go through it in my own time before we meet, and I identify, because I can see from that detailed questionnaire, and it's quite a long questionnaire, I can see where your issues are, the main issues, and it varies from person to person. There's some that are sort of universal, but then there's other areas that are different. And so then I can direct people to the areas of the program that they need to focus on when they're going through. And sometimes I might get them to jump ahead to a section because I know that they've got to get that sorted first. But most of the time, because it's a step-by-step formula, it's a method, most people just work through it in sequentially. And that, I think, is where the difference is, and then they can come along to the weekly group calls and I can keep moving them forward and answering their questions, etc. And that's what you're talking about, is what you heard on the weekly calls, is that whole process. And listening to everybody else makes a big difference as well, doesn't it? Because you couldn't join the calls, but you were hearing my advice and my coaching, because I coach people. You were hearing that each week, which then also helps your learning and development and so on.
And even though as people came into the program and came out of the program, sometimes you went back over topics that I'd heard previously, but that was really helpful. I think you need to hear things a few times before you really get into them. And sometimes you hear them before you've tried them, and then you hear them again after you've tried different things. And actually that really helps as well. And I think, you know, I mean, I would have loved to have actually been able to join the weekly calls. That was one of my worries at the start, was that because I couldn't come to the calls because they were during the working day, that I wouldn't get as much out of it. But I think because I tried most weeks to post a question, and I tried to always listen to it on the Thursday night, so the call was obviously on Thursday lunchtime, I tried to listen to it that day, so I was kind of in sync with everybody else, and that helped as well. So if somebody was in my position and couldn't join those weekly calls, I would say it's slightly better if you can, but it's not a problem if you can't.
It's not a danger. Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes I didn't word my questions very well, so I got better making sure my questions were clear, like what I wasn't sure about, and trying to do the update. But it would have been nice to have joined, but it wasn't. I still got what I needed from it, and was still part of the group because I was able to post those questions beforehand in the group.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think I've said everything I wrote. I did write some notes just to make sure, but I think we've gone over everything that I talked about. I mean, the only thing I wrote down that I tried was the glucose monitor, which I tried quite early on, which I found really, really useful for monitoring what was going on with my blood sugar as well, and really helpful. So that was really worth doing.
Yeah. And just to say with that, it's something that's best done under guidance. It's not something to just go and do on your own, because it's not it's not straightforward unless you are sort of under a medical professional or whatever. But it is definitely very helpful when you're looking at blood glucose, to be able to see that sort of visibility and understand it. Definitely.
And I like that, because I was measuring something, so that appealed to my nature, but it was helpful, and it revealed certain foods that so I think oats were fine for me, but carrots were not, and it was like, okay, so there you go.
Yes, exactly. And what you were saying about repetition and hearing things again and again, I was smiling inside, because I was thinking, as a teacher, you must be very familiar with that.
We call it retrieval and revisiting, and it gets loads of different names every 10 years. Somebody comes up with a new buzzword, but it's just basically going back over something you've done before, because the more you do it, the more you're going to remember it, and it's it is.
You've got access to the program ongoing, so you can do that.
And I've still kept my journal, and I still use my journal occasionally to keep track of how things are going. And I was looking back through it today, and actually it's like, oh, this is really helpful. It's really good to go back over it. So my journal is something that I'm pleased that I did, and I've kept, and I will continue to use it.
Yeah, brilliant. Star pupil.
Gold sticker.
Exactly. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rachel. If anyone has any questions on what we've talked about today, please do pop them in the comments, and I'm in the group. Rachel is also in the group, and so if there's anything specific, I'm sure she wouldn't mind answering them. But if you've got any questions about what we've talked about, pop them in the comments, and we will answer them. All right. Thank you very much. I will speak to you soon, and see everybody later. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care. Okay, let me just try and end this. This is where the text stops.